Good morning, old school Texas Tech. Texas Tech. It's still morning. It's a hot morning here in Columbia in my old school hotel room. And anyway, I wanted to continue with old school Texas Tech predictions for. I'm going to do as many of these as I can for as many college football teams across the country as I can, not just Power Five. I've done quite a few on the Mountain West, and I'm going to continue. I'm going to continue making predictions. Today, I'm going to focus. This morning, I'm going to focus on Ole Miss. I like Ole Miss. I have some friends who went to school there. I think they're going to be a very good team this year. I'm a fan of Lane Kiffin in general. I don't always agree with him. I did not like the things he had to say after the bowl game against Tech a couple years ago. But at the end of the day, I think he was listening to his players. It was clear to me that he was on the wrong side of that issue. But anyway, we won the game, so in some respects, who cares? But anyway, in general, I'm a fan of Lane Kiffin. I do think he is a very good coach, and I think Ole Miss is a very good team this season. Um, anyway, so they start off. They have a really interesting. I think one of the most interesting things about their season this year is actually their schedule. They have what's basically almost like a preseason, the first four games. I mean, these are teams that they should easily beat. They open up with Furman in Oxford on August 31st. That should easily be a win. Second game of the year, September 7th, also in Oxford. They play Middle Tennessee State. That should easily be a win. On September 14th, they do go on the road, but it's against Wake Forest. I just think Ole Miss is a way more talented team than Wake Forest. I don't think that's going to be a difficult game for them. September 21st, they play Georgia Southern. I do have respect for Georgia Southern. I lived in Georgia for a little while, and I know they're a respected program. I just don't think they're anywhere in the hemisphere of the talent that Ole Miss has. Ole Miss brought in a lot of really key transfers. Ole Miss could very well have one of the best offenses in the country this year, and their defense looks really good too. I mean, they look like a really, really legit team. So those first four games at home against Furman, Middle Tennessee, and Georgia Southern, and on the road at Wake Forest should effectively be like a preseason, and should really have them set up nicely going into SEC competition. On September 28th, they play their first SEC opponent, and it's going to be at home against Kentucky. Kentucky's a good team, but I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to being able to beat Ole Miss at home. October 5th, Ole Miss goes on the road to South Carolina. I just don't think South Carolina is going to be good enough to beat Ole Miss this season. October 12th, they go on the road to Tiger Stadium. I've done some research and reading, and it looks like this has already been it's already been declared a night game with the powers to be with the networks. So I guess barring some sort of weather or something like that, this will be a night game in Baton Rouge. I do not think Ole Miss can beat LSU at night. I think Ole Miss is actually the better team. I just think LSU, this is a revenge game for LSU. They lost to Ole Miss last year, and I think they will lose in Baton Rouge. That would be an electric atmosphere. That'll probably be one of the best games all season in college football, in my opinion. I do have a lot of family and friends on both sides of the rivalry, but I'm going to say LSU beats Ole Miss and what will kind of be an upset in some ways. I think Ole Miss does have a better team than LSU this year. I just think LSU will win that game under those circumstances. Then, importantly, they get a bye, which they're going to need at this point to kind of regroup. Great start, really, but they'll be coming off a loss, and they're going to be playing a difficult team in Oklahoma. Oklahoma is good. I think a lot of people are kind of forgetting about them going over to the SEC because Texas is projected to do better in this first season. But Oklahoma can definitely compete in the SEC. Trust me, I've been following them for a long time. They will be able to compete, but I do not think they're good enough to beat Ole Miss on the road in their first season in the SEC. So I have Ole Miss winning that game on October 26th. November 2nd at Arkansas. A lot of people are picking Arkansas to pull an upset and kind of find Ole Miss sleeping, as Ole Miss will be playing Georgia the next week. I just don't think Arkansas is good enough, and I think it's going to take a couple seasons for Bobby Petrino to get that offense going. And man, I still don't even know about this head coach. I could see Petrino even taking back over as head coach at some point. That was kind of a strange hire. I get it in some ways, in other ways it was kind of strange. But I have Ole Miss holding on and beating Arkansas on the road. I don't think they've won at Arkansas since 2008, and they haven't won at Baton Rouge since around the same time period, somewhere around there. But I think they'll take care of business at Arkansas. Then on November 9th, they come home and play another huge game, which is also going to be one of the better college football games this season, in my opinion. They've got Georgia at home in Oxford. I think Ole Miss is going to win this game. I think they're going to just be really up for it. This is going to be their chance to get into the playoff. They've got the talent to do it. Georgia has a little bit more depth, I think. So some of this will be determined by how healthy Ole Miss is. But if Ole Miss stays relatively healthy, I think they can beat Georgia at home. I think they're that good. It'll be a really tough game. It could come right down to the end. But I've got Ole Miss beating Georgia. I'm sure I'll get some criticism on that one. Another important buy is they could be headed into a trap game after a big win like that against Georgia, but they've got a bye before they go on the road to Gainesville to play Florida. I think that with that bye, Lane Kiffin is a good coach, and he's a good enough coach to take advantage of that bye week and get the win at Florida. Then they play their last game of the year. They play their big in-state rival, Mississippi State. I think Mississippi State um, will probably end up being a good team under the new coach under Levy. I know a little bit about him. I followed him a little bit through his coaching career. I just don't think they're going to be nearly they're not going to be prepared for Ole Miss in his first year, and it's also in Oxford. So I like Ole Miss winning that game. I like Ole Miss going 11-1. I would think that would definitely be enough to get them into the playoff, if not the conference championship game. But maybe not the conference championship game because well, I don't know. I'm going to leave that to the committee, and the I don't know exactly even how the SEC works. I guess it's probably the two highest ranked teams. I don't know if Ole Miss's schedule is difficult enough to get them into the championship. But I think it will be enough to get them into the playoff. All right, so that's my prediction for the 2024 Ole Miss Rebels.